Hi everyone, my name is Badr Salmi. I'm a product manager for reCAPTCHA Enterprise, part of Google Cloud Security. Today, we're going to be talking about how to protect your application against fraud and deep dive into how to protect your authentication use cases leveraging reCAPTCHA Enterprise. From account takeovers to fake account creation, we'll be covering how reCAPTCHA can help you protect your application without adding any user friction. Let's get started. You may remember reCAPTCHA from the squiggly letters you had to recognize to prove that we were not a bot. That has evolved to become the I'm not a robot checkbox in 2018, and it finally evolved to be a fully invisible product in 2020 by returning risk scores to the developer, allowing them to tune their response to bot attacks. In 2020, we launched the enterprise version of the product, bringing in more features such as SLAs and SLOs, risk-based authentication with Account Defender, password leak detection, or native mobile SDKs, to meet the needs of enterprise and large customers, while keeping the same advantage for small developers by offering a free tier up to 1 million monthly assessments and an easy onboarding flow. reCAPTCHA Enterprise can help you protect yourselves against fraud and bots. It identifies fraudulent online behavior with a risk model that protects over 5 million websites across the web. With tuning based on your behavior and training feedback, reCAPTCHA's adaptive risk analysis engine adapts its detection to meet the needs of your business. You can also act based on your risk scores that are returned by reCAPTCHA. For example, with a low score, you can require two-factor authentication or email verification in order to allow a user to continue. And in terms of telemetry, we capture a risk score for interactions on your website and reason codes, which you're able to either observe on our dashboards or export to your own solution. Today, we will be diving into how Account Defender can help protect your users against account takeovers, along with other reCAPTCHA Enterprise features. Things like credential stuffing leading to account takeovers, requests from untrusted devices, accounts with similar behaviors, or synthetic accounts. reCAPTCHA Enterprise is your first layer of protection against these type of attacks. Account Defender takes that a step further and analyzes the patterns of behavior at an individual account level. Now, let's look at the different steps of an account takeover attack and how to defend your application against it, leveraging reCAPTCHA Enterprise account protection products. Account takeovers are made possible in big part because users often reuse passwords across multiple websites, leaving them exposed when one of the services they trust loses their credentials via a data breach, for example, or through a phishing attack. These stolen or leaked credentials are then made available online, and attackers harvest these stolen credentials to attempt to get into user accounts. The first layer of protection against account takeovers stemming from credentials leaking or being stolen is reCAPTCHA Enterprise Password Leak Detection, which is generally available since June this year. Password leak detection will check at login time against our extensive leaked credentials database if the user or attacker is using stolen credentials. This allows you to quickly notify your user and ask them to reset their password and use two-factor authentication to ensure they are the right user, all of which is done in a privacy-preserving way. The next step in your protection journey with reCAPTCHA Enterprise is to leverage our bot detection capability, trusted by over 5 million websites, and risk scores to protect your application against credential stuffing attacks. Credential stuffing is a type of attack where attackers use harvested stolen credentials and try them on websites at scale using bots. In this case, reCAPTCHA Enterprise will return your risk score between 0 and 1, 1 being a human, in increments of 0.1, that you can leverage to protect yourself from bots and the automated nature of the attack. For example, a score between 0 and 0.2 can be blocked, and you can let higher scores through without any friction. Next, Account Defender, our risk-based authentication feature, along with two-factor authentication, allows you to identify if the human trying to log in is the right human, and will return you a recommended action, such as two-factor authenticate this user. Along with your bot assessment, passing a hashed account ID will allow reCAPTCHA to keep track of the user in a privacy-preserving way and identify when their behavior deviates, prompting a potentially risky authentication. This is made possible by looking at hundreds of signals and clustering analysis. Account Defender will return you a score such as suspicious login or profile match, along with the bot score and its recommended action. Equipped with this output, you can choose to reduce friction for returning users, while increasing friction for bots or humans coming back as risky. Finally, you can also use our investigation API to identify more clusters of accounts with similar behavior, for example, the same attacker, and challenge these accounts to re-authenticate, for example. Protecting your application against account takeovers is not only important to build trust with your users, but also to reduce the amount of fraud happening as a result, such as payment fraud, for example. Now, onto the demo to see how these features work together. In this first section, we will look at how the risk score for reCAPTCHA Enterprise Invisible works. Let's imagine your user tries to log in using their password and username. reCAPTCHA Enterprise will return you a score for that user between 0 and 1. In this case, it's a 0.9, meaning this is a human. Now, let's look how that plays along with Account Defender. In the case of Account Defender, in this case, when the user comes back with a similar score of 0.9, it comes back as well with a label saying it's a profile match, meaning the same user is coming back. Let's look at a case where actually someone else is trying to log in on behalf of the user. When we check the visitor, get a new score of 0.6, but also Account Defender identifies that there is a suspicious login activity, and this risk-based authentication recommendation is to request a two-factor authentication for this user. Now, what if a user is trying to log in with normal credentials? Again, using the same credentials they used that are not leaked and safe. We check the password. It comes back as clean, no password leak detected. However, if we're using leaked credentials, when reCAPTCHA performs a check against our database, it lets us know that that password for username has previously been leaked, which means that for the developer, you can prompt your users to reset their password, two-factor authenticate them to make sure that it is the right user. Now, you also have an annotations API that you can use to let us know of how an assessment has gone. For example, was this a legitimate user, or was it a suspicious login, etc. If you're interested to learn more about reCAPTCHA Enterprise, head to our site on cloud.google.com/reCAPTCHA Enterprise, where you can learn more about all the other exciting features that you can use to protect your application, such as the recent CloudArmor and reCAPTCHA integration we launched to general availability, our payment flaws protection solution, or our native mobile SDKs. You can also try reCAPTCHA Enterprise today by using our free tier. That's it for today. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this session and recommend you join other sessions to learn more about how Google Cloud can help improve your security. Goodbye.